Hello.
Hello, back again
Back
after a little
again.
bit of a break.
Yep. Yep. It was a good break. Good to be back.
Yeah, right.
Um,
Agreed.
so we were noodling a few different topics, and the one we landed on is it's something that has been kind of percolating in my brain
I
lately.
think it's so fascinating that you brought it up. And leading into this, I was like, what I'd really like to talk about is,
Yeah.
and it's worlds collide.
So I see a lot of posts on LinkedIn talking about how what's the brands who are not happy with influencer marketing or not succeeding with influencer marketing, the reason they are not happy is they are treating it all as one offs and they are not doing these long term ambassador contracts with their influencers. And I want to preface all of this by saying, I want to preface my rant by first saying we have done ambassador programs. We are currently working on ambassador programs. I have spoken at a conference on a national stage about how to successfully run an ambassador program.
Right.
There is a
You're not
time I'm
anti-ambassadors. We'll
starting to
see.
get anti
Right.
ambassador.
You're anti-ambassador.
I
Sorry.
think what's happening is I'm just increasingly seeing the issue with this kind of relationship. And I'm also really bristling at the people who are stating this with like such surety that this is the way to do things. This is what works for everyone. If you are not happy, if you are not seeing success, this is why, because this is the way. And there are so many pitfalls to an ambassador type program. There are so many watch outs. It doesn't make sense for everyone. One off campaigns are often, usually, the smartest way to go for a number of reasons. And I just think it sounds sexy for some reason. Everyone, if you make a statement like that on LinkedIn, there's this like pile on of people like, yeah, that's true. That's true. And it like gets all of this
Sounds good. Yeah.
engagement. And then
Rah, rah.
clients read about it and see it. And then like even people who shouldn't want an ambassador program are asking for one. And
Right.
then you have to like educate. So I'm like feeling all up in my feelings about ambassador
Yeah.
programs and thought we could like dissect that.
Right. And the enthusiasm behind it with I don't see a lot of meaty discussion about what that even means and why it's the best thing. Like, okay, we'll unpack this. My top line thought is it is good for the consultant or agency who's advocating for that because they're trying to solidify their budget for the year. And
Yeah.
so, of course, saying do long term partnerships and ambassadorships and let's roll this out over the entire year is a strategic move for them to pitch to their brand clients because one off sounds like it's a cash flow issue behind the scenes.
Cash flow, and I think it's less time spent recruiting. I mean, the most
But is it? See, that's what I'm saying.
well, the most work heavy part of like if I look at a campaign and I look at how the hours kind of spread out over the course of that campaign from recruitment to negotiating to
Onboarding,
briefing to
negotiate.
checking
Yeah.
the work
That's
to
contracting.
that
Yep.
stuff, like it is for sure front loaded in that recruiting and negotiating piece. And so if you're doing all of that for everyone at the upfront and then you're done for the year, you end up doing a lot less work from an hours perspective. You're not recruiting
Yeah.
over and over again.
And I think, again, that's best case scenario, pie in the sky thinking. And then Q3 hits or Q4 hits, and the world has changed. People are losing their minds politically, economically, socially. Like the algorithms have flip flopped. What's going on February of 2026 is not what's going to be going on November of 2026.
Yeah.
I mean,
So that's
specifically
like,
November.
so that's
But
something we've seen. Like we had a client we were working with a couple of years ago and they were all in an ambassadors and they picked, I think it was like their 5 ambassadors that they were working with. And I've talked about this before. By June, they were like, we're tired
sick
of
of them.
all of them.
Sick of them.
Get rid of them.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, luckily we knew enough to put in a termination, like an easy termination clause in their contracts, and we
Yeah.
were able to do that. So like
Yeah.
some of
Oh,
it is
but the
people get
bad
fatigued.
feelings. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're an influencer and you get wooed in, this is an ambassador. And so now your mindset is great. I'm working all year with this brand. So I'm really going to sink into this. I'm really going to devote. Oh, rug pulled out in June. You've actually already put in your equity. Like you've already given the brand that emotional
And possibly
heft.
turn down work from
Oh,
from competitors, right?
so many watch outs
Yeah.
there.
So
Yeah.
that's one issue.
Yeah.
I think not every client has brands, has products, has services that warrant multiple posts.
Right.
Like,
Oh, so
I'm
that's
so
the other
sorry to say
piece.
that. Like, I know
Yeah.
everyone thinks their brand is so special and that there's, easily 10 to 12 pieces of content that can be generated about
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
but there isn't. Like, sure, if the brand has seasonal needs or like,
Right.
with food, we talk about food clients a lot because that's both of our background. Like, that makes sense. Sure, you have like New Year, like healthy dieting things, like
Right.
sports season, summertime picnics, comfort food once it starts getting cool again, back to
Tailgating.
school. Like,
Yeah.
right. So there's sure, but like not every brand has seasonality built in or multiple variations of their product that can be shared.
And I often want to clarify when I see those posts, and maybe we can do that here. There's always on, but that's different to me than an ambassador program.
When
Like
we talk
always,
about always on, from the brand side, we are going to make sure that throughout the entire year they have
right.
content going live, not necessarily by all the same
Right.
people. We love I just also want to state we love reusing influencers. If they did a phenomenal job
Right.
for the brand and there's another story to share,
Yeah.
we will 100% bring them back and
Yes.
encourage our client to do that. Where I have an issue is contracting for all of that at the upfront before you know how it's going to perform, before you have an idea of what you want them
Right.
to
Right.
do. The savings isn't there. Like, I think there's this thought that like, okay, well, we'll contract with them for 4 posts instead of just one, and we're going to save so much money. You don't save a ton. I think the drawbacks are greater than the benefits
W-
there.
Absolutely. And thank you for going down that road with me of always on is a strategy, but it is not the same as ambassador long-term contracts with the same set of influencers throughout the year. And that's the distinction I would want more brands and their advisors, whoever they are, to be making. Like, I think the cost savings comes from an always on where you are in the flywheel all the time versus that like, well, let's get started on this 4 different times this year. When
Yeah,
you're just in it, I think there can be some efficiencies of scale. But to your point, then leverage that to pull in influencers that you need as you're going, depending on that seasonality, depending on what world circumstances, depending on, oh my gosh, our favorite influencer just freaked out and said some terrible things or is turns out to be a horrible person. I don't know. I think, influencer marketing, I've always said this. We could take a client campaign that we ran last quarter, do it this quarter with the same influencers, same brief, same everything, and it will look totally different somehow. It'll perform differently. The algorithms will do different things to it. The seasonality will impact it, the cultural landscape. And so yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that other than to say influencer marketing is a measurement of what's happening in the moment
right.
and planning long term. Person A, again, you run ambassador programs. There are ways to do it well. There are ways
Sure.
to protect your brand from locking in on something that ultimately doesn't work. So that's a good piece of advice. But it is not the end all be all. It is not where every brand should be going to solve. The bigger problem is they're not happy with what they're getting from the one offs. Let's dive into that. Let
Right.
me take a look under the hood. Let Danielle take a look under the hood. We will figure out why you're underperforming or why you think this hasn't worked. Somebody is not squeezing all the juice from that lemon, and it is not because it's not an ambassador program. They're
Well,
just redirecting now. It's like
and I
shiny
also
thing.
I think there's a place for both. Like we I can't think of a situation in which we would suggest that the entire influencer marketing budget be put into ambassadors. Where we do see it work and where it does have a place is if it's one portion of a year long
Oh my goodness.
sprint's not the
Totally.
right word, but like a year
Yep.
long program
Yep.
where there is some always on. There are key moments in time with tent poles. There are different product launches. There's stuff happening. And then also, as part of that, perhaps there are this smaller group of people who are doing something a little bit different and more
Yeah.
special because it makes sense to have
And
them.
PS, that's an A/B test also, which is great. Like the brand should be looking at that, like, why does or doesn't the long-term partnership content work better? What are the differences? So it's not even about the end result of the brand ambassadorship. It's in comparison to those smaller pulses of content going out from a fresh crop of influencers. You can learn a ton from that as well. So I agree. It's like adding the paid piece to it. It's just part of what makes a healthy, robust strategy in some cases. But I think every brand, I'm going to say it, I'm going to put my line in the sand. I think brand ambassadorships are not necessary. Like no brand
No.
needs to do that. It can be a nice to have, it can be a plus up, it can be this feature to add in to get to highlight what works in that regard. What, like finding out from those same audience. Well, here's the thing, influencers aren't even activating their own audiences anymore. So it's not like you're getting a consistent read on, oh, their audience liked it in January when it was a new year, new you message, but they don't really care about picnicking or
Right.
summertime, or you're not really having that focus group opportunity throughout the year with the ambassadors. They're hitting, the algorithms are bringing them new followers or new non-followers anyway.
Right. Right. When everything like lives in the For You page, it's just a different ecosystem. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Now, I
What
mean, I will
else?
say that some of the things that my clients like about, like, I think clients like being able to develop those relationships with a smaller group of influencers and feel like they have this ability to really educate about the brand and get to know the influencers better and form that deeper connection. And when the influencer knows the brand really well, they are able to better, like it kind of just boosts their creative juices and they can come up with bigger ideas and they're in a position where they can pitch the brand on big ideas that they have. I think what I'm getting at is I'm not saying don't form relationships and don't work with people multiple times. I think where I'm bristling is when you label it in this way and when you contract for a long-term period, like I just feel like there's more drawbacks to like this labeling of it, and you can still extract all of those benefits if you just handle influencer marketing smartly. If you
Yes.
do educate the influencers, if you do create this open door, open dialogue policy where you
Yes.
invite them to share their creativity and give you big ideas and you encourage that, where there are opportunities to get together, whether it's like a Zoom or in person, like we can take these like delicious juicy elements of an ambassador program and use them to make all influencer marketing better without being stuck
Totally.
into this like narrow definition of ambassador and getting
Yeah.
ourselves into a pickle that we don't need to be in.
I'm totally going to reframe this in a much more aggressive way because I 100% agree with you. And so I think you getting in your emotions about this speaks to, you're saying it, not saying it. Like we understand that core influencer marketing has all of this capability baked into it, but it takes nuance, expertise, it takes time. It does take time and money to nurture that pool of influencers, even if they're one-offs,
Yeah.
into a place where, and most people are like, but like they don't know it, or they're trying to fast track it. And I said this before. It's like smoke and mirrors. It's like the distraction. We haven't done a good job of really getting all the value out of a core influencer activation or strategy. So now let's try something else that's flashy and sounds good. Brand ambassador. Wah, like it just, sort of
Yeah,
has like
sounds
panache.
sexy.
Yeah. And I love this. Well, if you're not satisfied with your results and being pushed into something that's more expensive, more commitment, more lift, actually, stop for a minute and say, wait, to Danielle's point, and I'm saying this to the larger audience here, I think that's so smart. Like bake it into what you're doing on
Yeah.
a regular basis, not just with the flashy sounding. And I think the people, what I'm hearing is the people that are advocating for the brand ambassadorship as a next level, here's where we're all going, didn't get the core fundamentals down
Yeah.
first before
I
wanting
also
to
think
go.
there's like this element of like getting married before you've even dated,
Ugh, for sure.
because there's a lot that has to take place in terms of trust exchange and proof of concept and proof of voice and fit. There's a
Building
lot
equity.
there's a
Yes.
lot that has to happen
Yeah.
before you s- you get to this point where like a deeper relationship is warranted. And because of this like sexiness of ambassadorships and everyone talking about it, I think a big piece of why I struggle with it is I see brands being like, this is what we need to do, find all of them now and let's contract with them. And they haven't worked with any of them yet.
Right. Oh,
So like, sure, like again, I'm going to repeat it. Like when influencers do a great job and everyone's thrilled with the content and the relationship, we do ask them back over and over again. And that's the second date and the
yeah.
third date, and everyone's getting to know
Yes.
each other and the relationship is building and it's growing. And sure, if you get into year 2 and it's blossomed into something really really special, like okay, that's appropriate then to call it
Right.
something
And the
special like an
influencer might come to
ambassador.
you and say, in year 2,
Yeah,
this is what my schedule looks like. I'd like to include you in these things that I'm doing. And you have
exactly.
the basis of that trust foundation to go on.
Yeah,
And I love that idea because what you just described too is the divorce that can come when you jump
it's
into
it's
marriage and you're not
yucky.
ready for it. And everybody's like, we grew apart. We're just not the same people anymore.
Yeah,
It's also that process of getting to know one another, spending time nurturing those relationships. You literally can have a brand ambassador result without having to label it, without having to pay more for it or get your knickers in a twist about what you're calling it. You're actually
yeah.
doing it instead of just talking about it.
And then this is actually getting back to something we talked about in our last episode, because I was sharing the story of these ambassadors that we had who we were trying to bring back for a second year because the brand actually did really love working with them, but they had gotten a manager and their rate, I think it quintupled is what happened. And so
Yeah.
that can happen too. Like
Yes.
everyone changes, everyone evolves,
Yeah.
everyone grows. And as it is, even in like personal lives, not every relationship is forever.
Right.
And
It gets expensive to fall in love.
yes, it does.
Yeah.
It
And
does.
rightly so. If those people are amazing to work with, every brand is likely going to experience that,
Sure. Well, and
and so
we always budget for, rational increases, but
keep being rational.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
funny. I had just posted a link to our last episode, which was about nightmare scenarios with influencers. And something about what you were just saying reminded me of that, of just, you can go in with the best intentions and it would be, it's more expensive to get into something long term, not having vetted, not having worked with them. It's like employees, losing employees costs 1 to 4 times their salary to replace them. I think the same can be said for bad influencer experiences in terms of everybody's emotional like weight on them. Now you've got this influencer running around in the world with a megaphone that could talk about your brand or et cetera, et cetera. There's just a lot of watch outs.
Something just occurred to me, and I wonder what you think about it. Do you think that ambassadorships, I'm wondering if they don't make more sense for brands who are tackling their influencer marketing in-house, because it removes some of that, like, as I was saying, like that recruitment negotiation piece is so time consuming, and that discovery is something that's very tricky often for brands. And so like if you are handling influencer marketing in-house, that ambassadorship is incredibly appealing, and maybe part of what makes me kind of bristle a bit at this insistence that ambassadorship is right for everyone is that it's not as necessary for the brands who are working through us, because we have this machine in place to
Right.
handle that recruitment and negotiation, and that always on,
That's a
constantly
benefit,
bringing
a
fresh
service.
stuff.
Yes.
And so there's you when you're looking at a situation in which you're really having to weigh like the benefits and the drawbacks, this big benefit of ambassadorship, which is just having that one-time recruitment negotiation, that's gone. And so suddenly the scale is tipped, and maybe that's part of why I'm like, why are we doing this?
Feeling threatened
Yeah.
a little bit. I'm sure. I feel that now that you say it, I feel that too. I go back to what you wisely suggested, which is the brand ambassador approach should be a quarter, 20% of what you're trying to do, even if you're an in-house team. The minute an in-house team gives up, whether they're not doing it or they're not having an outside source do it, and I mean humans, not marketplace bullshit and SaaS platforms. The minute you give up that prospecting, that recruiting, not even recruiting, just discovery, vetting, you lose touch with so much in the influencer landscape.
Yeah.
You start to create an echo chamber for yourself. Sure, like imagine a brand in-house, for whatever reason, they decide to go with 10 influencers for the entire year. Everybody's happy about it, but they've suddenly closed off the walls to possibly, they're only getting information that they've really set themselves up to get from just those 10 people and those 10 relationships. And I think it can be very costly or dangerous in terms of the bigger picture, trends, cultural touch points, red flags. You can kind of put blinders on. So I think there's a lot of problems with cutting out the discovery phase. And most people will say, oh, well, I'm on TikTok anyway, and I'm on, Instagram and whatnot. There's a difference between absorbing it as an audience member, a user, versus scoping out and being like, oh, that's interesting how that person pitched that product or showed up in that video. And, oh, look, people are doing really lo-fi. Like, a couple of years ago, lo-fi would have been the rage. Like, oh, why is that landing and why am I attracted to it? So you bring a different eye to it, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't want anybody to confuse themselves about the cost of cutting out having an access or reviewing new influencers. I think the dangers outweigh the costs.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Done with ambassadors.
We did. As you log off and go service the client who you're running an ambassador program for. But the thing is, they're going to get the best ambassador program out of you because you're critical about how it looks. You're not just like new thing, shiny thing.
Yeah.
I think this whole industry has rushed right past the value of influencers into performance, media, long-term partner, like all these buzzwords. And I'd like to get us back to this middle ground where there's that baked in value we can explore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I appreciate you.
Okay. Thank you. Right. And more next week.
We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.